What's up, everybody? Welcome to or welcome back to TBN. This is the stream where we focus down on all the good things in life. News, advocacy, science, policy, legislation, nicotine, smoking, all the things. We got a bunch of news to talk about today. I'm your host, Nick, joined now by Danielle Jones, president of CASA. No big deal. Hi, Danielle Jones. And today we're welcoming Logan Exhales over there on the far right. In fact,
the vice president of CASA.
The vice president of CASA, Logan Exhales.
You like it when I say real important people in the house today.
It's true. This is true. This is basically a CASA stream right now.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the influence. You're like the Bloomberg influence on the GrimmGreen sphere.
CEO.
Right. You know. Otherwise, it's basically the Oval Office of CASA right now. You know what I'm saying?
Essentially, the Oval Office of CASA. That's good. Look, I'm glad you guys are here. Thank you for being here today, Logan. I know you're a working man and you work today, but damn it, you made it happen.
I ran home, I jumped in the shower, and then jumped immediately right back out of the shower. 2 seconds scrub down, and I'm
That's all you need. Just a quick rinse.
Yeah, I just need to get the dirt off, really.
Just get the dirt off. Jump on YouTube.
You just gotta get the dirt off. Yeah.
Jump on YouTube. Talk about vape news. Danielle Jones, it's been a full week. How's Danielle Jones been?
Oh, Danielle Jones is in the very hectic process of moving.
Oh, Danielle Jones.
Which is like the most fun that any human being can ever have.
It really is so much fun.
It's just, so this is going to be the last, by the way, viewers and listeners, this is going to be the last stream on Nick's channel that you're going to see me in California, actually.
Yeah, bye, California.
One. So this situation that you're looking at right now, say goodbye. Say goodbye. I'm out.
I'm out.
Is the office the first thing that gets set up?
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
Yeah, 100%.
100%, yes.
Are you going to try to make it as accurate as it is now?
Oh, no.
You're going to freestyle it, change it up? Good.
We're changing it up for sure.
Yeah.
I'm actually looking at like different lighting setups. I've been watching all these lighting video tutorials.
Yeah.
The lighting is not good right now, just FYI, because you know what? Today I said, fuck the patriarchy, and I'm not wearing any makeup. So I just dimmed them a little.
Girl power.
We don't want to see, I just wasn't feeling it today, you guys. I'm real sorry. But yeah, I'm looking at new lighting setups. I want like new furniture for the back. Like a lot of these same decorations. I mean, come on, who do you think I am? You're still going to see these, but they're going to be in like different orientations.
Whole new feng shui vibe.
I'm going to have a garage. I'm going to have a garage, you guys. It's going to get turned into a workshop, and I'm going to be building some furniture, okay?
Dude, Danielle Jones, building furniture.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. What's when you say furniture, you mean like you're going to build a couch?
Not a couch, but I'm going to build dressers. That is on my team. I'm going to build I already have plans for it.
Okay.
I've been like taking measure. I was drawing diagrams in Illustrator yesterday of my dressers. Okay. Like I get real deep. You guys know me. Okay. Whether it's soap or like National Youth Tobacco Survey data, I get into it. Okay. In the granular, I've got shopping lists. I'm buying like, a rip cut guide. I'm buying like Craig pocket hole jig. I'm buying edge banding. Okay.
Don't know any of these words.
Oh, they're glorious words. Literally all I watch on YouTube is home renovation or woodworking. That's pretty much it. That's my life right now. I'm so excited about it.
Just don't give in to the lies of Chip and Joanna.
I mean, their stuff is kind of nice.
Chip and Joanna.
I'm not going to lie. Like I kind of like.
Listen, if you're into distressed shiplap, then fine. But otherwise, no.
Like not all
distressed.
That's all.
I love that.
Distressed wood and shiplap.
I mean, they go a little more modern
urban farmhouse.
The urban part is what I'm into. Like
urban
a
farmhouse?
tiny bit of I dig some exposed wood. You know what I'm saying? Like I dig some exposed wood. But like, not all the way, but like a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Just half exposed.
I want this brand new $4,000 mahogany table. I just want you to run sandpaper across it. That's what I need.
I want it to look like it was at the bottom of Lake Michigan for 2 years.
I want it to look like I got it from the Salvation Army or Goodwill, but I'll know. I'll know that it's $4,000 mahogany.
I mean, I'm going to build my stuff out of plywood. Okay, first hardwood plywood, but like plywood, you know what I'm saying? And then I'm going to do
High-end
fun
plywood.
stuff.
High-end plywood.
Higher end plywood, probably some Baltic birch plywood.
You
if
should see
anyone
if
would
you can
really
get
like
into
to
like
know.
any like hemo plywood or particle board groups on Facebook.
Yeah.
Oh, is
yeah.
that a thing?
I don't know, but I'm sure that you have to go
doubt
through
it.
like 9 raffles and all sorts of stuff.
You have to have someone vouch for you before you can even get in
get
the
a
group.
yeah.
I'm
to even
probably
get a
not-
chance to look at a picture of the wood.
I'm probably not pro sauce enough to like, you know, get into those groups. I'm learning though, because you know me, I absorb all the knowledge like a sponge. I feel like I know precisely how to build this dresser. Also, I want to do something cool with the drawer fronts, right? Like I think they have these cool things called maker studios in the area that I'm moving to in Indianapolis, and you can like pay a monthly like subscription and go into their facility, and they've got like laser cutters and CNC machines and like
that's
3D
cool.
printers, and like you just go in there and it's like playground for nerdy people who build stuff.
That's
And
kind
so-
of amazing.
Yeah, right. And so I want to like do something fun with the fronts of the drawers, like maybe do some engravings in them or something, and then stain them. And then I have this one of a kind, gorgeous, amazing custom dresser that I made myself.
Holy shit.
I'm
And then
really
you can keep
excited,
all
you guys.
all your
The real-
homemade soaps in it. And
Exactly.
It'll
I could
just
put.
all
Drawers
be
of soap.
Oh yeah, the
handcrafted
soap is not
by
going nowhere.
Danielle.
I'm still doing the soap for sure. I just
Handcrafted
had
soap inside of a handmade
Listen,
drawer.
I mean-
dresser.
speaking of this soap, I am all out of Logan's Woodsy.
That's right.
soap.
Logan was my newest.
Logan's Woodsy soap?
I think that's what it was called. It was
It
something
was.
like
It was
that.
called.
Yeah.
I made him the custom labels. So I've
Yeah.
advanced since I last made you soap, Nick. So you don't know this, but I have reformulated my formulation, and I don't know if you kept any, Logan, but I use these cute little paper
Oh no,
bags.
I didn't keep any. I used every bar.
Well, no,
Too
the
good.
bag. I'm talking about the bags. if
Oh,
you
the
kept
bag? No,
bags.
but I do have a picture, and I'm looking for it right now.
So I switched over to paper bags because of the environment. Okay, why do we need to wrap
Obviously,
everything in
yes.
plastic? We definitely don't.
Just
and they
ends up
fit the
in the
soap
ocean.
great. And then I'd make on my printer custom stickers for each person that I make soap for, right? So for Christmas, my brother wanted this like space themed soap. So I made him one called like Space Rocks, Moon Rocks. Yeah, see, those are my little custom labels. And so Logan,
Oh.
when I
And
did
it
my
even says
interview.
Logan's Woodsy soap on it.
Yes, it does. Because that's
So
what
you
he
guys
told
gotta
me he
try,
wanted.
You gotta
I
try
love
some
that
of this
name.
Woodsy soap,
Yeah,
okay?
that's I made custom labels for my brother. I did it for my mom. I also did it for Beecher. his
Logan's, I'm dying, Phil. Woodsy soap. Logan's
Woodsy
Woodsy soap.
She was like, what do you want this soap to smell like? And I was like, the woods.
Yeah, there, and then you got it. Logan's Woodsy soap.
yeah,
I'm
there you go.
trying to remember
I
what I did for Beecher. His was even funnier, I think. Hang on. Let me talk amongst yourselves.
it's gonna
while I
be
find
hard to
this.
top Logan's Woodsy soap.
Look, it's good, you guys. You're gonna
You're gonna
get out
want
of the
some of this
shower
Logan's Woodsy soap.
smelling like pine trees and ferns, and it's glorious. Okay.
It's gonna be wonderful.
Look, I go to work smelling
Pine
like the woods. I
cones.
come home smelling like the woods.
So for
just
Beecher, I
woodsy.
found it. I did Beecher's ball tingly soap. Okay.
Beecher's Ball Tingly soap.
And the reason was because I started making a soap for Chloe and M
So many
Turk that was a
questions.
mentholated version.
Uh-huh.
And I told them, because whenever you have menthol in your soap, you need to be a little bit cautious, especially if you have sensitive skin, in the areas that you put it.
In
You know what I mean?
sensitive
Like,
areas.
just take care, right?
You
Because
know.
it might be a surprising sensation that you are not
Could
expecting.
be under.
So I warned
Behind.
them of that, but apparently Mike Turk loves that feature of the soap.
Yeah.
Like he's real into
I've known
it.
a lot of people that are that is a desirable thing for them.
So I told Beecher about it, and he was like, "That's the soap I want." And so I made him the same recipe. but I
Beecher's
called it,
Ball Ting.
Yeah.
I mean,
Listen,
then
the
if you
woodsy
don't-
soap doesn't tingle the balls,
No, I
You
do
don't.
not,
You
but-
wouldn't. You wouldn't.
but
want
you
a
will
onesie suit
smell
to do that.
fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, use all
But,
the
like-
essential oils.
So the real question is your new furniture building entrepreneurship going to be, you're going to start making TikToks like
Oh no, no.
It's
My
like,
husband
"Guys,
asked me that
Danielle,
too.
let's make
he was
some
like,
furniture."
When you start doing this, are you going to make a YouTube channel like all the people that you watch? And I was like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. No.
Yeah.
No. That is
That's good.
a level
I'm
of
glad
work
that you
I
said
am
no.
not interested in.
I'm glad you said no. I'm glad
No.
you said no, that it's not going to be on social media.
I have no desire to be a YouTuber. You know what I mean? Like with the channel and making the money from it and having to like keep up a schedule and like produce the content.
It's tough.
No, thank you.
It's rough. It's fun, though. It's rewarding. I was just talking to Kent about this. I could see it be less rewarding for doing other things, but I find vape YouTubing really rewarding.
Sure.
Just because of what vaping is, and it's getting people who smoke to stop smoking. And every time someone tells me they stopped, it feels like I stopped again. I'm like, I know that feeling. Oh God, you must feel great right now. And like, oh, that's a very rewarding thing. But I could see, I build chairs, and after like your 900th chair, you might be like, all right, so I'm done building chairs, you guys. That's it. I built enough chairs.
Because I want like stuff for me, right? So like dressers, I need a media console. Also, a lot of time, I also like getting furniture secondhand and then like painting it and doing stuff to it. So that is another. So I feel like these skills, right?
Doing stuff to
it, right? And I've done this a few times already. And I sometimes make some major modifications, right? I'm like ripping off the base, putting new legs on, you know what I mean? And that will still require some of these woodworking skills. So I feel, I'm not going to get bored of this, you guys.
I like how Danielle picks up like 2 new hobbies and is already full in and like a subject matter expert on them.
I feel like Danielle
is
not going to commit to something unless she's ready to fully commit.
Yeah, I am the exact
this
opposite
woodworking
person.
thing. It would either be that's not for me, or we're going all in.
Yeah, or I'm going to build the
in-between.
Sistine Chapel, and yeah.
I'm buying a table saw, you guys.
Buying a table
all
saw.
the way.
Yeah. It's just, that's interesting to me because I'm the exact opposite. And I've always been the exact opposite. Even when I was a kid, I'm like learning how to play piano and take piano lessons. I'm like, this is hard and I'm not good. Let's quit. Oh, but I really want to play this instrument. This is hard and I'm not good. Let's quit. Oh, you want to learn how to play basketball, tennis, football, like all of these things I'm not very good at. Let's quit. That continues to this day.
I'm that way with musical instruments. Like I couldn't, no. I have a tiny, like, that would be cool if I could play guitar. I've several times tried to learn. I have no, like, discipline for practicing.
Yeah,
like, I'm just
you gotta practice.
I've tried a bunch of different instruments. None of them stuck. Like, that is not a thing for me. But random, crafty hobbies, I'm all about it.
You jump in.
I'll research it for like a year before I ever attempt to do it. That's
before
the
you
other.
even pick up your first bandsaw.
Oh yeah, like I watched how to make soap videos for like 8 to 12 months before I ever bought any supplies.
Do you think people do that with vaping? Do you think people watch vape videos for like months, for like 2 to 3 months on end before they like finally decide on something?
I don't know the answer to that.
I kind of did that. I watched I watched this one singular vape YouTube video over and over and over again for like, it was well over a month, probably 2 solid months of just the same video before I finally went, okay, I've viewed this enough times. I'm actually going to buy it. I'm actually going to jump in.
I'm kind of like Danielle in the either I'm not going to do it or I'm going to go all in sense. But I am the exact opposite when it comes to research. I'm like, I'm going to go do this thing and learn absolutely nothing about it before.
Yeah. I'm kind of that way too.
I'm just going to dive in and figure it out as I go along.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm exactly the same way. And I've grown a skill. I think I've evolved actually a little bit beyond humanity in that I have the uncanny ability to eyeball things. I mean, like down to millimeters, I'll just eyeball stuff and hang stuff on the wall and it's straight and I'll eyeball it, or we're moving something. And I'm like, oh no, that's fine. I can eyeball it. Just go. Eyeballing it. And that's not a skill that you generally want to have because you want to like measure and be precise.
Sure.
But because of my personality, I've grown this lazy skill of being able to eyeball things real good.
Listen, if it ends up working out, great.
Yeah, who cares?
Yeah, exactly.
Who cares?
Yeah.
There's so many parts of my job that it's just like, eyeball it, figure it out. And then there's other parts of my job where you're like, you can't mess up this cut, bro. Go get a tape.
Yeah,
like,
I get you.
That's a $4,000 cut you're about to make. You're not going to eyeball that. So
see, Chris
it's
Collins
a good mix.
in the chat said, he says, I do that now. I watched videos for over a year before the first time I bought my first vape. A full year of watching vape videos. That's interesting.
Maybe I'm not weird. Yeah, I did the same thing with furniture. Before I ever bought like a piece of furniture to like make over, I watched YouTube videos for at least 6 months.
Janine, I've watched DIY e-liquid videos for months. Have I DIY'd? No.
Yeah, I'm with you, Janine. Like,
Yeah.
I will tune in to DIY videos, like my friends' DIY videos, and like hang out, do the live thing, chat with friends or whatever. Take absolutely nothing away from it. I haven't learned how to mix e-liquid
Yeah,
yet.
same.
All my flavorings are just
struggle.
sitting down here gathering dust right now. Like,
Yeah. Well,
yeah. No, I've watched so many e-liquid DIY videos, and I think I've made one like strawberry milkshake vape, and it was awful. And I was
Yeah.
like, Nick, I was like, I'm not good at this. I'm gonna quit.
yeah, no. Bad at mixing. I'm going to quit.
Yep.
Yep,
Yeah.
same. Yeah.
Tried my hand at one recipe, must not be for me.
So does that mean, so if people watch vape videos for a year before they make a purchase, and people watch DIY videos for like a year before they mix their first DIY, does that mean that people will watch like TBN or an advocacy stream for like a year before
Oh
they'll
God,
like
I hope not.
do the first call to action or get involved? Like, okay, after a year of TBN, I'm finally going to do that call to action. That's depressing to me. I can't think about that.
I hope not, you guys. If that's you,
let's
sir,
cut that timeline
ma'am.
down just a little bit.
let's
Sir or ma'am, if you are watching right now and you're like, oh, no, do
looking
it
at the
right
camera,
now.
you guys.
You don't need expertise to participate in advocacy. I'm talking to you. You don't need it.
But
No,
you do need
You
TBN.
literally need like 2 minutes.
You do. You need like 2 minutes and
Mm-hmm.
the will to click buttons.
The
That's what you
will
need. That's
to
the tough
click
part.
buttons.
That's the toughest part, is clicking those buttons.
I mean,
Let's talk about some news. I'm going to go click on my air conditioning real quick. So we'll be right back to talk about Nicholas Florclough if you want to take it, Danielle Jones.
oh,
You don't have to.
from
No pressure. No pressure.
the problem is I have a hard time reading on this tiny, tiny screen. But we are going. So the first thing we're going to talk about is, for those who don't know, Matt Holman is the now former director. So FDA's Center for Tobacco Products. He was their director of the Office of Science. And as of this morning, it was just announced that he is resigning from the FDA to go work for the one and only Philip Morris International, which I find hysterical. But
Sure.
public health policy wonks are losing their collective mind on Twitter, and I find that slightly amusing to watch. But here, Nick, you could take it from here.
Yeah, sure. To be honest, I didn't know of Matt Holman until literally I read this news. I thought, whatever, Mitch Zeller, he's Center for Tobacco Products, and that's the name that I know. Didn't know who Matt Holman was. But yeah, as I'm sure Danielle said, Matt Holman, he's leaving to go to Philip Morris International, which seems weird, but also doesn't seem super weird, but not for cynical reasons.
Like, they do this with pharma
All the time.
Yeah.
All
FDA and
the
pharma
time.
is it's just a revolving door between the two.
Yes.
And so like that was just kind of my first thought with this, is it's kind of the same thing, right? Like
Yeah.
it's
I mean,
it's
it
just
is
that
if you
it's-
think about it. But to everybody
I mean,
else, they're-
really, yeah. To me, it's
Losing
it's
it.
just kind of the same thing here.
I like what Alex Norsha had to say about it. Hang on, let me find what he had to say about it
Absolutely,
real
yeah.
quick.
He has some
I almost
very-
always
He had some
like
good
what
hot
Alex
takes
North
on
had
it.
to say about anything.
He had some good hot takes on it. I don't know exactly which order I'm supposed to read these in.
I think they're orderless. You can do whatever.
Small scoop from an informed source. Talks began with Holman at the beginning of July and at Matt's instigation, and after he had already recused himself of his FDA duties.
Right.
This might not be the correct order to read these in. But that's in reply to what he said here. He said, I'll also add that the communications of his departure only leave speculation. We're supposed to just patently trust the FDA/PMI to explain when talks loosely began. I'm not suggesting anything nefarious happened, but it's only inviting ridicule. So he's alluding to the idea that maybe PMI was courting him.
He's just saying we don't really know what the timeline was, but then he did that tweet that you read first, clarifying that he got information. And so the facts are they started negotiations or talks in July.
Yeah.
Holman had already recused himself from his duties, so it wasn't like, so it's not a quid pro quo situation based on the facts available to us.
Sure.
But I do find it interesting that apparently Matt Holman instigated it, right? He went to PMI, it sounds like, and said, hello, would you like to hire me? It's not like they went after him, is what this is making it sound like. Anyway.
Right. Was he, oh man, you could speculate for days as to why he did that.
Well, and Alex Norsha has a really good tweet on that exact thing, if you can find it, which I very much agree with.
I do like what he said here. He said there's a way to view Holman leaving the FDA for PMI in the larger context of the e-cigarette debate. As safer nicotine products are authorized, the culture at tobacco companies will shift. People who would never have worked for big tobacco are now clearly considering it.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that does kind of make sense if you're as qualified as we believe Holman to be, and you have this expertise of 20 plus years with FDA and being in the Center for Tobacco Products and seeing all of the new vapor products or whatever, you're going to become a subject matter expert. Maybe there's just more money in the private sector.
More money. And also somebody in chat said this too. He'll probably save more lives at PMI than he will at FDA.
Yeah. I mean, that's a weird reaction to have though too, because I had the same exact reaction when I read this news. I was like, oh, well, he'll do better at PMI. He'll do more better things at PMI than he would at FDA. Yeah,
and I mean, at the end of the day, like, that much experience with FDA is only going to benefit PMI going forward. With getting, safer products out and getting them through authorization or whatnot. So, I mean, hey, if it comes with more money and it's going to put better products out and it's going to help that whole process.
Yeah.
Knock them dead, man. Go get them.
Yeah.
Go bananas.
Go get them, Matt Holman.
Don't actually knock them dead. We're trying to do the opposite. But
yeah, we're trying to save them. But
but this also leaves open the idea that we're going to get somebody new,
right?
Who, I mean, that's just a complete wild card in the whole regulatory, process anyway. Like, who are we going to get this new guy?
We're right back to where we always are.
Yeah, we're right back to where we always are, where we don't know.
What's going to happen at FDA this year?
Who knows?
I personally hate being asked those questions. Like, I hate speculating because I'm always wrong. Every time.
Yeah, I've been wrong in my few predictions that I've made about FDA. I was adamant.
Sure.
I was adamant that FDA was going to authorize a menthol Juul like before the end of 2021. It's like I would bet my life on this.
Right, I thought tobacco for sure. Menthol, they can't make up their minds about. But tobacco, I mean, come on.
Way wrong about that.
Yeah.
Man, way wrong about tobacco. Who saw that coming?
Right.
Yeah, I just don't even guess at this point. I just sit back with my bucket of popcorn and wait for Twitter to tell me what happened.
Yeah, wait for Twitter to tell you what happened.
I'm just like, we'll figure it out.
It always just seems so completely out of your control, too. It's like, oh, this guy's stepping down? Okay, so... And it's like when we got the new head of the CTP from the CDC, Brian King, who turns out is probably the worst choice possible for vaping and harm reduction to head up the CTP. And we just got him completely out of our control.
Yeah.
It just seems to be happening, consistently to us, and we have no,
control.
I mean, that's our plight. That's where we've been for years.
And it's even more frustrating because these aren't elected positions to begin with, so
No.
it's even more outside of our control.
Right.
Yeah, just sit back with your popcorn and it'll be here when it gets here.
The new head of the science division of the Center for Tobacco Products, who's replacing the guy that worked there for 20 plus years. I hope we don't get another Brian King. I don't want some young guy that has no idea what's going on.
Turns out Brian King's old assistant is applying for that position right now.
Oh, yeah,
You know?
good. Yeah, good. I hope so. I hope Stanton Glantz is applying for that position.
Oh
God.
my God.
I wasn't even going to bring up Stanton Glantz, but he had some other ridiculous science.
You know, I was this close
He
to
did.
almost forgetting about Stanton Glantz.
Yeah.
Right.
He'd been gone for so long, and then sure enough, today, right in my Twitter feed, it's like, Stanton Glantz, and I just hear his Stanton Glancy voice, and he's talking about, here's the
stupid
first evidence.
blog. Hot takes from Glancy.
Yeah, hot takes from Glancy. You know who I'd rather have hot takes from? Ethan Nadelmann.
Any day of the week.
Right? Any day of the week. So we've talked about Ethan Nadelmann before on this stream. Logan, do you want to spout off some Ethan Nadelmann facts, or anyone? Feel free to spout off some Ethan Nadelmann facts.
Founder of Drug Policy Alliance, which was what was their original name when he founded it? I don't remember. I'm not even going to try to spitball that one. But former director for Drug Policy Alliance. He's been, fighting the war on drugs for decades and decades now, and also very outspoken nowadays about tobacco harm reduction. I mean, he's a harm reductionist through and through, and he's very much on our side with all of this. So
yeah, and he's got the Psychedelics podcast.
Such a good podcast.
Psychoactive.
Psychoactive.
The name of his podcast.
Yeah, Psychoactive podcast. Well, he did a AMA on Reddit, and I don't know who here is Redditors. I am a Redditor. I've been going to Reddit for as long as I can remember. It's actually not that long, but I like Reddit, and they have a subreddit called AMA, where it's basically they get professionals and doctors and scientists and actors and game designers and all sorts of people from all sorts of walks of life to basically say, hi, I'm this specialty person. Go ahead and ask me anything. And it started at noon on Reddit. I'm sure it's done by now, but he was getting some really good questions. And I wanted to read the question and answer from The Truth About Vaping. The Truth About Vaping asked Ethan a question, and he gave a really good answer. And I like this. Like, if you're on Reddit, just go upvote these. That'd be nice. But it says, "Hey Ethan, what would you say to organizations like the Truth Initiative who argue that nicotine vaping is not a valid form of harm reduction?" His answer is as good as you would expect. He said, I'd say they're being disingenuous and even lying. It's a real shame because the Truth Initiative, under the earlier leadership of Cheryl Hilton and with key staff like David Abrams and Ray Naruya, was very much pro-harm reduction. The evidence in favor of harm reduction is incontrovertible. The question of what to do about teens who never smoked starting to vape is a distinct issue and concern, but it never justifies obfuscation and dishonesty about the benefits of harm reduction for smokers who can't quit. And the fact that big tobacco is increasingly invested in harm reduction should not be used as an excuse to oppose health-based interventions and innovations that could save countless lives. Ethan.
He's just so well spoken. He's been doing this a real
for like
long
what,
time.
40 years or something.
Yeah, he's been doing this a real long time, and he's just so well spoken.
Yeah, so well spoken. Always knows what he's talking about. And honestly, I just read that in his voice, and it makes it all better because Ethan Nadelmann has a great speaky podcasty voice as well that I just love.
True facts.
So yeah, I'll put a link to this in the description of this here video, and I would suggest if you're on Reddit, even if you're not on Reddit, go check out this AMA because I was looking through it trying to find harm reduction vaping related questions, and Jim McDonald I think asks him a question in there, and as you saw, Truth About Vaping, Danielle Jones asked him a question there, but there's some really interesting. There's some really interesting thought-provoking questions that's it's one of those things that you don't know you're interested in until you start reading it. Mm-hmm. You're like, yeah, how would someone who prescribes stuff, there's having this discussion about someone who prescribes, who works at a pharmacy and their customer is telling them that they're not using the meds that they're being prescribed in favor of psychedelics and this, that, and the other. And so he's like, I follow the science, but I'm torn between my duty to give them this prescription and tell them to not do those psychedelics, but I know that the psychedelics could help them. That's really fascinating to me.
Oh yeah, the psychedelic research is fascinating.
Yeah,
you guys.
really fascinating.
Really fascinating.
And I
Like
would
what
never
is happening
do it,
right
but
now with,
I want to.
psilocybin and ketamine assisted therapies.
Mhm.
Yep.
People with severe depressive disorder, PTSD, like
Right.
it's, I mean, even talking about like MDMA
Mhm.
for PTSD, the science around it right now is phenomenal, and
Yeah.
I'm just really excited to see where it goes, because
Yeah.
these are things that I feel like a lot of people like within the drug using community have kind of experienced and known for a really long time.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really go anywhere until we can do the research. And because these drugs are scheduled, research on them has been so poor for so long, and we're finally getting somewhere with it. And it's just really exciting, because so many of these drugs are going to have half or less these like severe side effects compared to pharmaceuticals out there. And that's just a really like fills me with hope, you know?
Yeah.
That
I
people
think
are going to get better help.
Yeah, I think that this can only be a good thing, right? It's going to be better for the patients who are involved in it, and I think it's going to be better overall to help destigmatize maybe some of people's preconceived notions about what certain drugs are and what they do and how they can help and how we can all function in a society and things like that. I think it's only going to be a good thing.
And I'm also hopeful that a lot of these drugs, you know, if that's what it takes, follows the path of cannabis, where we really start to break into the medical models of cannabis, which then just further opens the door to, you know, actual full recreational legalization and regulation around them. What I would love to see us, you know, tomorrow legalize drugs and go from there. But, you know, I think a lot of it to some degree requires time, requires figuring out those policies. And unfortunately, it's probably going to take something like the path that cannabis has taken in this country to get us there. Hopefully just not as long as it's, you know, as it's taken so far.
I've heard some people say that nicotine should take a similar route to that, like in a medical sense, and we need to, you know, use medical nicotine as like the pathway forward for recreational nicotine. I find that pretty fascinating as well.
I mean, also though, they kind of already have, right? Patches, gums, lozenges, inhalers.
Sure.
They did all that science and found that, you know, okay, first it had to be through a prescription only from your doctor, right? And then after a number of years of safe and,
it was over the counter.
Right, it's over the counter. So
yeah.
I feel like all the legwork on nicotine has kind of already been done. People just conveniently forget that when they start talking about vaping and they're of a prohibitionist style, you know, mindset.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, nicotine never really being, I mean, we're moving there now, never really being part of, you know, the overall war on drugs and prohibition of drugs, has only benefited nicotine science along the way, because, you know, all these things that we tote all day long, new studies, this, that, and the other, nicotine never had to go through like, oh, we can't study that because it's a Schedule I substance.
Right.
Like,
That's true.
So we've really benefited in the world of nicotine that it's never been there.
Right. No, it's true.
Oh yeah, that is really true. That's really very true.
But on the flip side of that, people don't necessarily recognize it as another casualty of the war on drugs, right? No, so when, I mean, you know, Truth Initiative and people use the same tactics on nicotine as they do with cannabis or any other drug, people don't always recognize it because it is treated separately. So it's like a double-edged sword, right? In a lot of ways it's good, but in some ways it's also harder to get people to understand why these policies are so ridiculous and won't work.
Sure. Yeah. You know, yeah, I mean, nicotine is a drug at the end of the day. It's definitely taken a different path through history than
completely
like heroin or opium or what have you. But I think we've benefited greatly through that. Absolutely. I'm really glad that we never just like outlawed. Well, we did actually in this country.
Yeah.
Certain states we outlawed smoking, we outlawed tobacco, but tobacco has never been a Schedule I substance. So
nope.
Thank God for that.
Thank God we know so much we know about nicotine.
Yes.
Yeah, look.
Now we just need to, do better education and drug education and honesty and whatnot. That would be great.
Yeah, that would be great.
And not like twisting science into saying things that it doesn't say, right?
Yes.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, we have a ton of science about nicotine. None of it says that nicotine causes mental health issues.
Yeah,
But
zero of it.
that doesn't stop them from saying that it does, right?
Zero of it. So, look, this is going to lead into the idea of nicotine abstinence, but we're going to start with an FDA kind of ordering a review of themselves. They want FDA's head is ordering a review of not just its nicotine division, but its tobacco and food divisions, from what I understand. And it's interesting. I don't know that anything really is going to I don't know. I try to be optimistic, but I don't know that anything is super going to come of it, because it looks like it, and I'm not going to sit here and read this whole article, but, they picked this certain foundation, which is familiar with the FDA. And anyway, it's not really super about that. But I think that's an interesting thing that's happening, and I personally would like to see something come of it. I would, in an ideal world, this Reagan-Udall Foundation that's going to be, investigating the FDA, they just come back and say, well, yep, they've been messing up like crazy, right. And all these regulations are, terrible. Just tell us everything we want to hear. But I think the likelihood of that happening seems very, very low to me.
Considering they're a friendly partnering organization with the FDA.
Yeah. They're like friends of the FDA.
Like a 5-star gold review.
Yeah, exactly. That would be my worst case scenario, is for them to find literally nothing wrong. They're like, nope, FDA, doing everything right. Clearly. They did it all right.
Yeah. Let me check my notes. Yep, 5 stars. You guys are good.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, you guys killed it.
Yeah, I would love for somebody to walk in and be like, let's see, upon further review, you guys are doing real bad.
Yeah,
that would be great.
That would be great.
Real bad. Not protecting public health. Real bad. But
yeah, it's like that one product on Amazon that gets like the half a star. Like you get half a gold star and that's it. Like that's what I want FDA to get.
We want that FDA half a star review.
Like they only get that because they did better than CDC during Avali, but that's it. That's where that half a gold star comes from. That's the best you get. Which really, that's a pretty low bar, by the way.
It's I mean, but it's fitting though for FDA, I think.
Absolutely.
Well, so there's a spot in here where they talk to Cliff Douglas, and Cliff Douglas and people like Kenneth Warner. They're the reason I wear the University of Michigan hat, because the University of Michigan, besides Yale, seems to be one of the only universities really caring. Like their Department of Public Health, their School of Public Health, they seem to really care about tobacco and tobacco control, probably because of Cliff Douglas and the things that he's done with American cancer and and the such as I often like to say. But this is from Cliff Douglas. Am I wrong? Am I reading the wrong part, Danielle
Jones? So he and like 12 or so other people got together and wrote a letter. And
correct.
That's what this is.
So this is an excerpt from the letter.
Right, that they wrote and signed. Neil Benowitz, I think, was on it. Some other people as well. Somebody from Robert Wood Johnson Foundation.
Okay. Harm reduction. This is a weird thing to say, Danielle Jones. Harm reduction is too often misunderstood in the tobacco control community as conflicting with traditional tobacco control measures. Okay. But tobacco harm reduction explicitly prefers nicotine abstinence to any nicotine use. Thus, both preventing underage nicotine use and promoting adult cessation from smoking and all other tobacco product use is ideal. Now, I don't know if Cliff Douglas is speaking for me, but tobacco harm reduction to me is not nicotine abstinence. And I've never thought of it.
Not explicitly preferring.
I don't explicitly prefer nicotine abstinence. I explicitly prefer harm reduction.
Yeah, I mean, no harm reduction explicitly prefers abstinence. You know, harm
Yeah, that
reduction
seems
as
crazy
a
to
whole
me.
is such an individualistic thing, and for some people, abstinence, yeah, achieving abstinence through harm reduction is great if that's the end goal for the person, whatever is best for that person. But no harm reduction ever explicitly prefers abstinence. That's just what we call abstinence.
Right. Prohibition.
Yeah, right.
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 Like,
exactly.
I mean, prohibition and abstinence are different things, but that the only thing that explicitly prefers abstinence is abstinence. Like that's it. There's no other way to paint that picture. So that's a wildly contradicting statement.
Wildly contradicting statement. And Danielle Jones pointed this out on Twitter.
Yeah. Sorry,
Recently.
guys. I couldn't. And look, I want to be clear on this. I really appreciate that Cliff Douglas gets involved in this topic. I really
Same.
appreciate that he
Same.
understands the importance of nicotine vaping products. I hope that he will continue to do that and speak out against people who are wildly unreasonable or spread junk science. But I am also not going to let this go, because that is not an accurate statement about tobacco harm reduction. And I think that,
I agree.
Cliff Douglas is a tobacco control person. Like, that is the world that he comes from. But he, I think, was enlightened by the fact that he had like a niece that was able to use a Juul to quit smoking. So that personal experience sort of opened his mind a little bit. But he is also still a very traditional tobacco control guy.
Yep.
And so I think that's where this comes from, right? And it may be a mixture of like, this is his perception, or also this is how he thinks if he words it this way, it will be more palatable to other tobacco control people. I understand that, but the thing is, that is not an accurate representation of what tobacco harm reduction is. And I'm not okay with somebody defining it that way.
Do you think this is same? In fact, let's read your tweet. The only thing tobacco harm reduction explicitly prefers is reducing the negative consequences, death/disease of smoking. Tagging Doug. Safer nicotine use is a pillar of THR. Nicotine abstinence is tobacco control's explicit preference, not THR's. Really, really very well said. I mean, has he replied to you or anything on this?
Oh,
yet?
no.
Oh, okay.
I didn't really expect him to either. I think people kind of have to, understand what they're getting into when they, support and look at people like even Ken Warner and like Cliff Douglas. We want them on our team. Don't get me wrong. We do. But they still, at the very core and heart of their, little souls or whatever, they still believe that using no products, no nicotine, no tobacco, they still believe that that is the best possible result for humanity, right?
Yes, correct.
And true, tobacco harm reductionists and harm reductionists in general don't necessarily abide by that. They, as Logan, was talking about, harm reduction in general wants to reduce negative consequences. It doesn't particularly concern itself with whether or not that includes complete abstinence from said substance or not. That is a personal decision for that person. If an individual person feels that that is the best way for them forward, then sure, that is supported. But if they want to continue using nicotine forever, but they are not, dying of lung cancer, or getting COPD or emphysema or high blood pressure or heart attacks, if none of that is happening, harm reduction says, be you, bro. Do you. Have fun. You know what I mean? It's about reducing harm in a variety of different strategies, right? A lot of different kinds.
Absolutely.
And I feel like he was distorting the definition of tobacco harm reduction. And there is not a world in which I'm okay with that, because it's not trying to get everyone to stop using everything. That's not what it is. It's about helping people be safe and healthy and happy
and alive.
Yeah.
Do you think this is just old tobacco control, mindset? Like autopilot? Yeah, like a mindset. Is he
right?
just
like when you're in tobacco control for this long, and that's been your agenda and your worldview of, tobacco bad, need to get rid of it, need to end all tobacco use. When you live in that world for so long, I mean, there's a lot of folks who have broken out of that, and it tends to take firsthand, experience. But even folks like Cliff, a lot of times they kind of get wishy-washy. They're somewhere in the middle of recognizing it while still falling back on that safety cushion of, well, abstinence is best, right?
Right.
And while abstinence for some is absolutely best, but like Danielle said, that's not what harm reduction is. Harm reduction is me not caring what you choose to put in your body because it's absolutely none of my business. But if I can help you stay alive or do something safer or whatever that is, or help you take care of or manage or find ways to manage some kind of problematic use, that's what I want to do. That's harm reduction. That's not at the end of the day saying, well, cool, good job, pat on your back, you're doing a great job so far, but you're still going to quit, right?
Exactly.
That's tobacco
that's what it feels
mindset.
like.
Right. That's tobacco
totally
control.
What it
That's
feels
tobacco
like.
control, and that's not harm reduction.
And I think that's probably Cliff's perspective, right? I think that he probably views nicotine vaping as a stepping stone to complete abstinence, which is why he thinks it has a place.
That it's safer, and he's very much on the side of these products being available to people.
Exactly. But he thinks still at the end of the day, the goal should be to stop vaping also. And that's where this can, in my opinion, become problematic because that isn't the point. If you want to vape for forever, what you should be able to do that.
I plan on it. I plan on being the first person to vape for forever.
I don't have any plans of not vaping, so.
She's going to vape for forever.
But yeah, no, Cliff, as much respect as I have for Cliff and folks like Cliff who have
Which is a lot. It's a lot. I have a lot of respect.
There's an abundance of respect that I have for him, and a lot of folks like Cliff who have come out in opposition of a lot of what's going on right now. At the end of the day, folks like Cliff do very much still care what you put into your body.
Yeah,
and that's I think that's where the problem lies.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah. Danielle Jones had to break that harsh reality to me. I don't remember how long ago this was, but I was like, Cliff Douglas. I first ran across Cliff Douglas. I was like, oh, he gets it. He gets it. He understands vaping. He totally gets it. And in my mind, I was like, Cliff Douglas can do no wrong. And then it was like months pass, and I'm like, okay, well, maybe he can do some wrong. And then I remember feeling like defeated one day because I'm like, why would he say that? Like, why would Cliff Douglas say that? And Danielle Jones was basically like, look, tobacco controllers are going to tobacco control. They have that mindset. They're hard to, they're dinosaurs. They've been doing it for so long that it's hard to steer the ship.
There's a lot of them out there who fully support all of this science and understand it, but still, want the safety net of a prescription model or something. Mm-hmm. Still very opposed to the idea of this being like a free market place of tobacco harm reduction, where we look at something like naloxone or other forms of medication and things like that, where there's a prescription model behind that harm reduction. And so they very much want that. That's what they want. They don't want the free market of harm reduction, which I think is the best way to do it. Like, these products
100%.
exist, these things work for people. It's harm reduction and prevention all at once. And that's the model that I want to see in the world. And I think most of us would agree with that.
That's the only model that realistically makes sense.
That's the model that works the best.
Yeah, if the consumer,
in my opinion,
right?
If
when you gatekeep it behind doctors or needing insurance or needing to pay expensive costs, that's gatekeeping it, right? If you truly want to get it out into the world, you inject it into the capitalist system and you let people, make money off of it, spread it to their friends, use word of mouth, right? Nothing like sells a product as well as your like best friend or family member saying, man, you got to understand this worked so well for me.
Yeah.
Instant purchase, right?
Yeah.
That's how you get people on board with things. And that is, I think, the most effective way to spread a solution like that.
And you're right. I mean, once we put things into, the medical establishment, and we're talking about people having to have insurance or all these other things, you've basically, like you said, you've gate kept this to the affluent white community. Right. That's what you've done.
100%.
Yep.
That's who you're benefiting. You're not benefiting everyone else. You're not benefiting the communities that need it the most certainly. Right. And so that's the medical model, and it's just, for lack of a better word, it's just shitty.
Cigarettes are a consumer product.
Exactly.
Cigarettes are a consumer product that you can just buy. You don't need a prescription. You don't even really need permission if you have the little card that says you're old enough. That's it.
And
that's all you need.
They're not even that expensive. In some places, they're very expensive. But for a large swath of the country, they're pretty inexpensive. You can't develop a competitor or a alternative product if it can't compete on that same playing field, right?
Yeah,
it needs to be available everywhere. It needs to be affordable, and it needs to be something that people can see other people out around doing to be like, oh, what is that? Like, perhaps I should try that as well. I'm not necessarily the free market fixes everything. Like, that's not a position that I usually take. I think the free market has some pretty big flaws, and we could talk about that some other time. But in this particular instance, if you have a technology and you're trying to get it out to the masses, I think the free market is fantastic for that, because it encourages competition, which makes products more affordable. It encourages innovation because people want to have the next best thing. Mm-hmm. That's what really gets something out there and prolific in the world.
The perfect example, I think, of the free market working as the free market intended is TVs. Think about the last 5 years in TVs, how astronomically bigger and higher resolution they've gotten and how cheaper they've gotten.
Yep.
Because there was no special interest interference or government anything involved. It was just the market and just the people going, we want more resolution, cheaper cost. And everyone's like, okay, we can do that. And then we got there.
Right.
It's amazing.
Yep.
Now apply that to a multitude of other things that are currently encumbered by, non-free market things like cronyism and special interests and the what have you. Then you end up with what FDA does to vaping and gives it to
which
two
really
companies
is
so
just
far.
cronyism and over-regulation.
Yeah.
I think zero regulation is a horrible idea.
Same.
I'm just going to go out on a limb there and say zero regulation for just about any industry is a horrible idea.
There has to be some regulation.
Yes.
Right, because our world would just burn.
Yeah,
right,
it would be done. It'd be over.
Corporations do put profits over people. Like, we need to be honest about
we wouldn't
this.
even be here anymore. We'd have been long gone.
Vaporized.
But yeah, I mean, once we get into the point where regulation is turning back progress, right? That's
a problem.
We've reached a really shitty point in that regulation.
Yeah, like when you see smoking, cigarette sales go up for the first time in 16 years or something like that. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, wait, hang on, you guys. I feel like we should be able to get everybody in the room, a bunch of stakeholders, FDA, some politicians, and just go, okay, guys, what are we doing right now? Come on.
Listen, Raja said it was bad, so everybody quit vaping. Let's go back to smoking. Right. Meredith Berkman and Raja said it's bad.
Oh, Pave said it was bad.
Yeah, those angry moms said it was bad. So
those angry moms said it was bad. Here's something I wanted to post in the description of this stream. Did you guys see this tweet?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
This is a pretty good tweet. Some good replies on it, and I'd like to see some more replies on it. But 1A, and I don't know exactly what organization this is.
So from what I understand, I think they have a show on NPR.
Correct. Yep. Your story checks out.
So I think it's a program, like a podcast or something that then gets what is the right word? syndicated onto NPR or something.
I think that is the correct terminology.
Something to that. I could fact check me, but I was under the impression of that's what was going on.
Show on NPR what restrictions. I ran across this from, I think, Cliff Douglas.
Because he's going to be on it.
I think Cliff Douglas is going to be on it talking about vaping and e-cigarettes. And so they're asking what restrictions, if any, we were just talking about this, what restrictions, if any, do you think should be placed on e-cigarettes and vaping products, and what role do you think FDA should play in regulating them? If you or someone you know has used e-cigarettes, what's your experience been like? Everybody go comment on this.
Mm-hmm.
Give them your 2 cents. They might use it on their show. They might have a discussion with Cliff Douglas about it, but that's essentially what we were just talking about. There does need to be some regulation.
Yeah, sure.
But
and in my tweet, I responded to this and I said, you know what? FDA's role here should be enforcing and setting up good manufacturing practices, right?
Mm-hmm.
We shouldn't have any weird contaminants getting in our e-liquid. We don't want that. We want good manufacturing practices.
High
we want
quality
accurate
nicotine,
and
yeah.
truthful labeling on our products, right?
Yeah,
We want to
yeah.
know correct milligram strength. We want to know what's in here. That way people with allergies can make sure to avoid certain things, right? Labeling is important. And then beyond that, I think the only other thing they really ought to be doing is regulating, or rather educating the public on the fact that this is actually less harmful than smoking.
Relative
and if
risk.
you are a person who is smoking, perhaps you should consider using this product. I definitely think that is in their wheelhouse to be doing.
100%.
And they are certainly not. But I think baseline maintaining the products, are, I say safe and effective in terms of like no contaminants, that sort of thing. Like
just product and manufacturing standards.
Right.
I mean, how long has the industry and consumers and everyone just been screaming, all we needed was product standards.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's it. All we needed was product standards.
No,
and that's how it's done with food.
To review every single, VG and PG that's ever been used.
Right.
Oh, you
Because
use the
they're
same
so
VG and PG? We still need all the
different.
science.
Yeah, so dramatically different.
Right.
So
It's just
dramatically
absurd.
different. I think I said something similar, Danielle Jones, about FDA needs to regulate for the safety of the products, not the effects of the products. And I made a bad analogy of like, well, we don't ban sodium in burgers for the greater good.
Right.
And we also don't ban people from eating them every day of the week for the greater good.
Right. You're required on the label to put
required on the label, exactly, to put how much
like
sodium.
what percentage of your daily intake of that you're supposed to have. So as a consumer, if you pick up a product and it says this has 5,000% of what your daily
sodium intake
is supposed to be,
Don't take sodium for the
make
next
an
3
informed
weeks.
decision on whether or not you want to put that product into your body, right? Give the people the facts. And then let them, we've already established that these products are not inherently dangerous. They are not killing people.
Nope.
They are not, giving people diseases. They are not doing any of the stuff that you would want to watch out for, right? So beyond that baseline, they should be allowed to be sold as long as they've got truthful information on the packaging.
Yep, 100% agree.
Same as
100%
food,
agree.
same as dietary supplements, same as a lot of other things that FDA regulates, right? Like, you know how to do this, FDA. You've been doing it for a real long... Do you think every frozen burrito gets an authorization from the FDA?
Every different formulation of burrito?
No, it does not.
There's basic product and manufacturing standards for a lot
Right.
of food. And then if something does happen, then FDA can issue recall orders and things like that from there.
Which is part of the guidelines that you're supposed to follow, right? Like you need to be able to recall things if needed, and you need to be able to, do, and that's part of your guidelines. Other than that, let the people have the frozen burritos.
Look, if we had a fully functioning, regulatory system around cannabis and things like that, then a volley would not have happened the way that it had happened.
Agreed.
No.
Agreed.
Because FDA, there would have been better, more, legal products out there for people to get to begin with that they can trust and verify.
They wouldn't have been buying from the black market.
Right. But if those legal products, say a company had done something along the lines of what happened with Volley and vitamin E, then those products instant recall, whatever, what have you, bring them back in, and that it would have just been a very different story,
right?
As opposed to what we ended up with. 2,500 people sick and like 70 people dead or whatever.
And
people wouldn't have been afraid to be honest with their doctors about what they consumed, right? Because that's part of the problem is that, you know, people in states where cannabis is illegal and they use the products didn't necessarily want to tell the doctors and the hospitals what they had taken.
Right. No, just a jewel. It was just a jewel.
You know.
Promise.
And that's a problem just across the board with any drugs, legal or illegal. I mean, even with insurance companies with smoking. You know how many people try to lie about their smoking or things like that to avoid paying extra on their insurance and stuff. I mean, the system that we have. I mean, this is just a broader conversation of the
for sure.
Overall healthcare system in America. But it doesn't create honesty.
No.
That's surely one thing our healthcare system does not create is open, honest conversations between, people and their care providers. And
which is counterproductive because they can help you better when you are honest with them about what you are doing, right?
Right. Like, instead of being scared about going to jail or getting in trouble or,
Exactly.
Unbelievable.
Which you're supposed to be protected when you have an open, honest conversation with your doctor. But, there's way too many routes they can take as far as, especially if you're a parent, now you're endangering the welfare of your children and all these other things. And so people are they just lie for good reason. For good reason.
Well, and there's many people that I've talked to in, the quote unquote Grimm army, but as well as in my Patreon who don't tell their doctors that they vape. They just don't want to deal with it. They don't want to deal with the hassle of it. They don't want their doctor having any sort of like preconceived notions about.
And their doctor goes, "Oh,
what's wrong?
Got a perfect bill of health. Your lungs look great." And you're like, "Okay, cool. Thanks, doc."
Yeah, exactly. I don't hide it from my doctors, but I could see the concern.
Yeah.
And if you had a doctor that maybe was like,
I don't volunteer it. But I won't lie about it if asked point blank. But I'm not like, hey, did you know that? I just wanted to let you know. No.
Just the first thing you say. How
Danielle
you doing today?
I
vape.
She walks through the doctor's office just chucking clouds.
Just RDA.
Perhaps handing out pamphlets. That's something I might do.
She's blowing O's and doing cloud tricks past the receptionist desk.
No, one of the projects that I actually want, spoiler alert, I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, but one of the projects I actually want to work on for CASA is creating a sort of like pamphlet and accompanying web page on the CASA website that is specifically designed like for physicians, right? Saying like, you've probably heard a lot of strange things about vaping, but we would like to clarify for you, what the facts are about this so that you can better help your patients, right? Because I've gotten insider information that, your random primary care doctor, right? People take 80 million different things. They're taking supplements from the internet. They're taking this. They're taking that. Doctors don't have time to research every single one of these random, things. So they'll go with whatever popular opinion is. They don't necessarily have time.
So much of it just, it's trickled down from whatever the AMA or FDA or CDC.
Exactly.
And
they
then
just
those
go with
guidelines just get handed down across the board and
nobody questions it, right? Because those are the people that you listen to. But so I want to create a resource that says, actually, hang on a second. Let's, really dive into some things that FDA and perhaps CDC have said, even, they'll have to whisper it, but they do actually say it, right? And then give you some resources that doctors are really going to like, the best studies, the best, big reviews, things like that. And try to, put information out that way. So if we get that, that's my next project after I finish the one I'm currently working on. Got a lot of projects. I'll walk through doctors' offices handing that stuff out like candy. You watch. I'll do it.
You should.
And I want to make it printable. So all you out there can print it out and go hand it to your doctor as well.
I want the doctors to be educated and open to it. And I don't want the day that I go into a doctor's office and I'm like, I'm having a hard time breathing and I feel some pain down here. And they're like, oh, you vape, right? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, that's probably what it is. You should go home. I'm like, well,
don't
a kid dies that way.
Yeah.
A kid actually died that way. He in fact had a completely different unrelated syndrome or situation, medical emergency going on, but the doctors wrote it off as vaping when it was actually something much more serious.
Something horrible.
And
He went home and
the
had a
poor
stroke.
kid died.
Yeah,
so,
he had a stroke.
You know, I believe that doctors also want to be informed about this because I believe at the end of the day, the doctors care about the health of their patients. And so if they had more accurate information that helped them, could make better choices for their patients, better all of this, I think that they want that at the end of the day. So this is why I would want to create a resource like this, because I think they want to be informed. They just don't know that they're being misinformed.
I like this resource. I think you should do it. I don't really want to talk about the American Heart Association, so I'm going to skip that. We can talk about, actually, let's check in on some, I think there were some super chats that popped up during the stream. I might not be able to see them. Oh, there they are. I can see them. We'll go ahead and read these super chats that came in during the stream. Mums is the big super chatter of the day. Fishy just said, I can't make it tonight. Probably replay crew unless I can get away. But I wanted to shoot you a hearty yo-yoy and yo-ha to all. Have a great stream. Fishy, I love you, man. Thank you. It's very much appreciated. Probably see you on the replay crew. Then we had some super chats from Mums that I feel like I should have read during the stream. He says, about the poll, I have a poll in the chat. If you haven't done it, it's too late. I'm ending it right now. Sorry. About the poll. The body uses nicotine to protect its brain cells when exposed to heavy metals. Nicotine also accelerates the regeneration of nerve cells. This is some completely unsubstantiated medical information. I have not heard those things. The body uses nicotine to protect its brain cells when exposed to heavy metals.
That I don't know about. I know that they believe that nicotine has some neuroprotective qualities to it. Yeah. Which they first, started hinting at this when they did, I think it was the Army, if I'm not mistaken, some military branch had, they have tons of data because they have tons of service members, right? So they can track like huge things for a long period of time. And they randomly noticed that people who smoke had a much lower instance of Parkinson's, I believe it was. And so they started this, based on that little fact, they started looking into this. So there is evidence that it has neuroprotective qualities. I cannot fact check the heavy metals thing. I don't know about that. I have not heard that personally.
I'm going to have to look into it. We'll have to look into it, Mums. He says, almost all past studies identifying nicotine as a nerve poison and such were studies that did not examine pure nicotine, but components of tobacco. Sure, I could see that.
That's true. Also, 100%. In animals only.
Yeah, in animals only. Yeah, that drives me batty, too.
Yeah, it's animal studies, and the studies on humans are in smoking, which vaping is not smoking, and nicotine use is not smoking. Like, you wouldn't draw conclusions about a nicotine patch from smoking, would you? Would you do that? That wouldn't be very smart, right? Nobody would do that.
Nobody would.
Who have.
Except for the people that have. He says, new studies, there is nicotine in the mouth spray for, what word is this? Prophylaxis? Okay. Prophylaxis? What?
It's an action taken to prevent disease, especially by specified means or against a specified disease. So a prophylactic solution is like a preventative solution.
Okay, yeah, there is nicotine in the mouth spray for prophylaxis in still healthy people who have an increased risk of Alzheimer's and dementia. Okay, so he's saying they treat people with an increased risk of Alzheimer's and dementia with a nicotine mouth spray?
I know the MIND study is studying the use of nicotine for Alzheimer's. I'm not aware of any approved treatment for that already.
Mums, you got to email me these studies, bro. Email them to me. He says it's too expensive to share more information, but there are new scientific findings and they are just being used, but vaping nicotine is bad? For real? No, it's not. It's not. We've been studying nicotine for such a long time. It's a little bit goofy how much information we actually have around nicotine.
True facts.
I'm going to pick two more things to mention this week in TBN here. The Philippines. Have you been around, Danielle Jones, for the Great Philippines discussion of vaping in the Philippines?
I know that it was definitely tumultuous for a while there, but I believe we have some good news recently.
There was some good news recently, and the way this came to pass was 2021, I think, maybe even 2020. There was the FDA was being, I don't know if questioned or interviewed is the correct term, by the Philippine Congress. And the Philippine Congress was asking their Philippine FDA about receiving money from foreign interest groups. And the man from FDA essentially said, well, I've been instructed not to answer that question. And so the congresswoman at the time said, okay, well, full stop. We're going to launch a congressional investigation into the FDA about accepting foreign money in terms of crafting anti-e-cigarette or anti-vape legislation, this, that, and the other.
From Bloomberg.
So in the process of this, the Senate crafted this bill that is called, they just called it Vape Bill. I love it. In America, it would be called something with 9 different words. Vape Bill. That's it. It's just Vape Bill. And I don't know if this is how it just works in the Philippines or not, but this bill passed everything and just needed to be either signed or vetoed by their president. Mm-hmm. Or if he does neither, it just becomes law on a certain date.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know if that's actually how it works, but that's what happened in this, is the vape bill was voted on, passed, and then it sat. I don't know why I have this article up here. I'm not going to read it. It's just for the headline. There's also this headline.
Yeah, I don't know enough about Philippines legislative process to answer that. I know how it works in the U.S. I don't know how it works in the Philippines.
Apparently, this bill was wildly popular, passed, and has been sitting waiting to get signed or vetoed for quite a while, months now. And then as of July 25th, neither of those things happened, so it passed into law and has become a law so that in the Philippines now, vaping is legal and regulated, and there's no sort of flavor bans, and it's being regulated very much in the same way that we would wish that FDA would regulate in terms of product safety standards, and that's kind of about it. And that's about it. They're really talking about how great this is going to be for the economy. It's going to help all of these Philippine vape companies, and it's going to boost the economy. And now there's these small companies in the Philippines that are going to, be selling all this vape stuff. They call it novel tobacco products, like the rest of the world. And it's kind of being really like celebrated. There's some pushback on it, of course. And you hear typical stuff about, my heart is broken because this passed, and the science clearly tells us how harmful these products are, things like that. But then the overwhelming majority of Filipino people and their Congress are all in love with this bill. So I think this is a good thing, spectacularly good thing for the Philippines.
Sounds good to me.
It's just going to be regulated, and that's great. I'll take some great news out of the Philippines.
And maybe we'll get even more awesome, like, hemo stuff out of the Philippines.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I'm thinking. Because the Philippines, and they create bomb.com vape stuff.
They really do.
I know. And then, maybe we'll get some bomb.com Filipino vape stuff in the future.
You're just not getting it through the mail here.
Yeah, you're just not. Well, I mean,
well, maybe.
Or are you, though?
Or are you? Or are you? Yeah, legally. It was like that old Mitch Hedberg joke about the UPS driver. How he's like, I love the UPS driver because he's a drug dealer and he doesn't even know it. It's essentially that. It's essentially that same sentiment.
If you've delivered mail for USPS, you've dropped a box of drugs off somewhere.
Yeah, you definitely have.
Absolutely.
Undeniably.
For sure.
Undeniably. But I mean, even in the vape mail ban, they did have that like small personal package.
Yeah,
they did.
10 small packages per month that you
10 lightweight personal packages per month, right?
Yeah. That's like the black market carve out.
I mean,
that's what that is. That's all that is.
It's just, when you Venmo your coil builder, you just tell them it's for groceries.
Yeah. This is for groceries.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so there's one last thing I wanted to talk about. Because it's in the title of this, Okay, dear. Oh, we had a presidential turnover in the Philippines.
Yeah.
Did we? I remember talk about it, but I didn't follow exactly how
Okay.
And I believe he's the son of the previous president. Before.
Oh, is it that guy who stole all the money?
Did he steal money?
I could be wrong. Yeah.
Is he
I could be
a money
wrong,
stealer?
though.
What?
I watched. This
I
is completely.
could be mixed up as to who ended up winning and who.
No, I think you're. Because I thought it was primarily between two people, and I thought the person who wasn't the son of the former president who stole a bunch of money was a woman.
He won?
So I think if the man won, I think that was hit. So this is completely separate from vaping.
I get their names mixed up as to which one is which.
I don't know.
Because
I don't know
pay
anybody's
enough attention
name.
to the Philippines, and I apologize to all of the Filipino viewers out there.
You're not getting
Also,
any sweet Filipino
apologize.
mods after you said that.
But I think it was a Philip DeFranco episode where I watched. They went into like who the primary candidates were, and one of them was the son of a prior president who apparently swindled and stole a ton of money from the people, the government.
I'm not wrong, so.
And then booked it out of the country and ran away, and it was all this drama, and it was a huge thing.
And they're still demanding where the money is.
Yeah. It's kind of,
it's a whole mess.
So that guy's son won. Well, I mean,
Okay, well, listen.
we'll see what happens.
I don't know about any of that, but I do know that they've legalized and regulated vaping in the Philippines.
So
and
it's
I'm
kind of like a
as
roller
win.
coaster of good and bad news in the Philippines, right?
It is.
And a father could be different. A son could be different than his father.
Absolutely.
So I mean, I don't.
Sometimes the apple doesn't even fall off the tree.
Or sometimes it falls and rolls like 80 yards the other.
This is also true. Sometimes
rolls
they get
right
eaten by
towards
deer,
harm reduction.
I don't know about the dude, so I don't want to say anything. But I did hear about his dad, so that's all I can tell you.
Chat is basically saying we're right. That's who.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh,
that's who won.
Yeah.
So.
Chat knows. Okay. Yeah. Before I mention Straya, I don't know much about this tax in Germany, but it is an excessive tax in Germany. Nice purple in with the chat here that says, watching from Germany here, just going crazy hearing about the stuff going on across the street. And we are just getting crazy taxation here, which is just utter BS. So they're getting taxed on non-nicotine, just PGVG.
Oh, wow.
It is treated as like a per mil tax.
Wow.
Just PG. If you buy it at certain locations, it gets the tobacco tax on it. But if you buy it at a grocery store, it would not.
Like a food store, like a commercial store or something. No tax.
No tax.
Could be the same brand, could be the same bottle,
same everything.
But if you buy it in a vape shop, tax.
Yeah, tax. You get taxed.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's real tough. I was talking to Dimitri about this, and I wish I remembered more of what Dimitri told me about this, but he said they had almost word for word the same tax in Greece, but it was only able to last a couple of months because of something or other he and the vape businesses did. They got together and they did a thing, and it got overturned like really quickly. And Dimitri seems to think that same method would work in Germany. And that's all the vague details that I have right now. I'm going to clarify with Dimitri to see what can be done in Germany, but they're getting shafted with that tax right now.
Yeah. So
well, it seems like they could argue for like unfair treatment.
DMs,
right?
We'll figure it out.
I'll flood his. It was something along those lines. It was something along those lines of. Yeah,
it's probably unfair, right? I mean, treating
unfair.
The same product different when it's sold by one person versus another person. I mean.
Yeah, I wish I could remember.
Sketch.
I wish I could remember exactly what Dimitri said, because as he was explaining it to me, I was like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense in my brain. Of course they can reverse this tax here. But now, GrimmGreen. Great memory on that guy. So I don't quite remember, but shout out to you, all the vape fam in Germany. I'm sorry about your tax. And when I was there at Hall of Vape, there was a vendor selling just huge jugs of PG and VG. Huge jugs of it. It was like big signs that said pre-tax. Like the tax is implemented next week. So stock up on your PGVG now. People were just buying it like crazy. Yep, F the FDA. All right, so the last thing I wanted to mention to talk about this week is Straya. Now, Australia has been having very similar, if not the same exact growing pains of vaping as the United States has, right? They get scared of youth vaping epidemics, and they talk about nicotine addiction, and there's been popcorn lung thrown around, and even though it didn't happen in their country, they've mentioned Ivali from time to time, and there's a lot of pushback, almost, I would say easily as much, if not more pushback in Australia. They're already on the prescription model, which is failing miserably. But I ran across this and found it to be very, very interesting. This was put out by the University of Queensland, Australia, and it's essentially clarifying Australia's youth vaping figures. I've never seen anything like this before, especially from a United States university questioning the media. But it says, over the past fortnight, Australian media outlets have been awash with alarmist claims about large increases in youth vaping. The problem was reported as being so dire that it prompted several Sydney private school principals to send letters to parents. These media reports provided no data on the size of the problem. The National Drug Strategy Household Survey data released a week after those media reports should have clarified the true extent of Australia's young vaping problem. However, reporting and interpretation of those results by some media outlets was inaccurate and confusing. This is essentially, from what I can tell reading through this, this is the University of Queensland kind of calling out the Australian media on
fact-checking them,
on inflating their youth vaping numbers on their reports. That's incredible to me.
Yes.
That just seems so incredible to me. And I don't know, I just wanted to share this. For anybody in Australia, other Australian media outlets incorrectly reported. It's really good. And why don't we see this happening like literally anywhere else in the world? Could you imagine something like this happening in the States?
Oh my God.
How incredible would that be?
I wish. Yeah, if like Harvard.
It's just a matter of what does the media do with it from there? Does the media double down, or do they,
That's the question, right?
Yeah. I feel like even in this country, if something like this were to come out, our media here would still double down on fear.
100%.
They would disregard this entirely and continue the fear-mongering agenda that we've had for, the last however long about literally everything.
We see it with fentanyl exposure, right?
See this,
yes.
But I just don't foresee even here that it would change much in regards to the way our media reports things.
We already see it with these fentanyl exposures, right? You've got tons of toxicologists, medical professionals being quoted on the record saying this is not real, this doesn't work this way, this doesn't happen like this. And yet still, every day the police, put out another report, which the media picks up and regurgitates as, fact.
Yeah.
And, now nobody has, I don't think, Harvard didn't put out a website like this for that. I don't know. Maybe that would make a difference. I don't know. I don't know the answer.
Is fear just like their default setting?
It sells.
It's
it
like,
sells,
we need to raise awareness for something.
Papers. Yeah.
Yeah. Good news doesn't sell.
No. Bad news sells. Fear sells.
Yeah, good news. Look, good news sells. Good news hits with me. There's a few subreddits I subscribe to strictly for there's one called Uplifting News that doesn't end up in my feed super often, just, for whatever reasons. But when it does, it's like, oh, okay, that's some uplifting news. I'll take that uplifting news.
I mean, I feel that way too, but apparently the majority of public think doesn't.
Are people just used to being outraged?
I think so.
I think at this point we're just so desensitized to a base level of rage that we need more new, exciting, more ragey things to make us feel feelings again.
Right.
Yeah.
That's where I think we're at in this country.
Wow.
Agree.
That's
hard.
That
agree.
Is so depressing.
That's where I
and
think
dark.
we're all at in this country.
Yeah. We're desensitized to the rage.
To things that should normally alarm us and concern us and get us out there saying something. Those things don't bother us anymore.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, we're like, well, is it worse than COVID? Fuck it.
Is it worse than? Yeah, and yeah, you do get.
I mean, think about, I don't want to go too far into the world of shootings, but think about gun violence in this country. How often do you hear of something happening, and everyone takes 2 minutes to go, "Oh my God, that's tragic, that's horrible," thoughts and prayers, and then 5 minutes later, everyone has moved on to the next thing.
Yeah, it's because there is a next thing to move on to.
It's awful. It's disgusting, but that's why we're kind of just in this, perpetuous cycle of these things, is because we specifically, I think, as Americans are so desensitized to these things happening that we're no longer truly outraged. We're outraged long enough for our thumbs to type out 240 characters and hit tweet. Right.
Yeah.
And that's it. And it's
our
awful.
Baseline is outrage at this point.
Right.
So it has
and
to
so,
be,
Yeah. News media, their outlets are just looking for the next thing that's going to top that last thing that you became numb to.
Yeah.
Yeah, that you eventually. That is sad.
But
I think
it's true.
I think it's the complete sad truth, complete sad, right on the nose truth. Yeah. And I really identify with that because, I mean, you do get less and less outraged about certain things, and you're outraged for less and less time. And when I was growing up and living in a small town, Carson City, up in Nevada, you didn't see really any homeless people in the whole town, really anywhere. There wasn't really any homeless. When you saw homeless people, you're like, oh my gosh, wow, that's like homeless people, crazy. Wish we could do something for them, it sticks with you. And then in Los Angeles, like, it still gets to me, but I drive by so many homeless camps just on my one commute to the post office, back and forth, week after week after week after week after week, that there's times where it's like, did I even see the homeless camp this week? Or were my blinders just completely on because I've driven past it so many times where it just doesn't exist to me anymore? I hate that. Mm-hmm. That's sad.
Yeah.
That's not a good place to be, man.
That is where we're at, really, with so many things.
That is too sad.
Yeah. Yeah. It's awful.
It's like it's normalized or we get desensitized.
Yeah. Thoughts and prayers.
Yeah. Thoughts and prayers. And nothing really ever hit with me harder with thoughts and prayers than when, I'm not trying to make anybody sad, but when Matt Sinister passed, it was a really big deal to a lot of people. Like, tears were being shed hard for a lot of people. And then some other people didn't care. And my first gut reaction was like, well, why don't you care about this? And it's like, no, like, of course they're not going to care about one of our friends dying because they've heard about this and this and this and this and this and this and this. And like, yes, it's another little kind of like newsy blip in the vape world. But it's kind of just that. It's another newsy blip in the vape world of someone who passed away. And we hear every day about people who pass away. So I don't blame people for being desensitized, I guess. Or I don't blame people for not being completely compassionate every time you hear some bad news. And, it's emotionally exhausting to do that. So I don't blame people.
I mean, I think for a lot of people, whether it's this community or other advocacy communities, whenever you're dealing with trying to save mass lives, it's easy to, when you hear about somebody dying or you hear about someone, experiencing a fatal overdose and dying. And there does kind of come a point where I think compassion is replaced by anger a lot. I think a lot of people like that empathy is kind of replaced by anger. Like, when I hear about a lot of things now, yes, I'm sad for a minute and then I'm immediately angry.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. But where does the anger come from? Because for me, it comes from, I guess, more a feeling of like helplessness.
Sure.
Like when I hear about, I remember a few years ago, there was some bad vape legislation passed in California, and it was something that I was really adamantly fighting against day after day after day and on live streams and videos. And when it passed, I took it personally. It really, I don't know, it really hit with me. Like, I broke down and I really took it personally that this, just this little bad vape legislation had passed. just crazy invested in it. I don't know. I know exactly.
Yeah, I try to just direct that anger at the people who deserve it, policymakers, lawmakers, else who should know better, and try to, save what compassion I have for those around me, friends, family, et cetera, et cetera. Because it's too easy. It's too easy to just get mad. It's too easy
easy
to go, well, you know what? I've been nice long enough now. It's
now
easy.
I'm mad.
It's easy to lose that and just be enraged and whatever.
And I don't know why it's so hard. At least for me, I'm speaking personally. Maybe I'm oversharing, but there's sometimes I'll wake up in the morning and I'll just be in a bad mood. And I don't know why, and I'm just in a bad mood. And I know that I don't want to be in a bad mood, but I just keep being in a bad mood. And I'm like, why can't I just be fucking normal? Like, why can't I just smile or laugh instead of, like, why is it's so hard to get out of that funk once you're in it? It's just easy to get mad and angry, and you just bury yourself in it. And it seems really difficult to get out of it.
My mood for the day is entirely dependent on how my back feels when I wake up.
Sure.
That's it.
Sure.
If the back feels good, we're going to have a good day.
Not so much, then not so much.
No, if you wake up and your back hurts, it's already over.
Yeah.
It's already over.
Yeah, I get that.
I think too that people have to compartmentalize as a coping strategy for dealing with the amount of shit that we have to deal with on a daily basis, especially the way the world is right now, right? There is an endless list of things that could send you into the deepest depression that you would never recover from, right?
Yes.
But in order to be functioning adults in the world, we do have to compartmentalize and be like, this is awful, but I also have to go to work.
Right.
I also have to take care of my children.
Yeah.
Or I also have to put food on the table. Like I do not have the luxury of laying around and just, feeling the feelings about this and being unable to function. I think we also have to understand that side of it too.
Right.
Like, it is frustrating that there is not more action that is inspired by these horrible things. But also, compartmentalizing is a valid coping mechanism that does 100%. Have to be recognized.
It is, and it's something that I do regularly. I mean, even Danielle knows during the day, like, I'm really rarely, like, in CASA during my work day, nor am I really on Twitter. Like, so Danielle knows, like, if you need me during the day, she'll text me. It won't be something like through our CASA group or something like that, because that's something I go from like work mode to come home family mode, and then it's all of this. Then it's social media, it's vaping, it's harm reduction, it's everything, it's CASA, all that stuff. Right. You kind of have to, because if you just fill your day with all of that bullshit from morning to end, like you're that burnout is going to catch up quick.
Oh yeah,
it does.
Real quick.
It does, and I've experienced it.
You have to I can't even say that word.
Compartmentalize.
And just because, and you're absolutely
my tongue didn't want to do it.
Just because someone is doing that and is compartmentalizing also doesn't necessarily mean that they don't care,
right?
And aren't being active in some capacity, or aren't being affected in some capacity, or something like that. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Human nature to compartmentalize stuff.
Yeah, sure.
Because we have to prioritize, right? We can't stop living because a thing is so. I mean, sometimes you do, but we gotta move forward. And so knowing when that's happening and when people just aren't caring, that's an important thing to distinguish.
Yeah, and getting good at like identifying when you're getting burnout, like being able to identify that is a big thing. Mm-hmm. Like when you're starting to feel that like the second you get on Twitter, you're mad. Maybe it's time to take a break. Like, you know what I mean? Like if it's 0.4 seconds happens between you logging on and pure anger, it's time to take a break.
Yeah. Yep. And it's like it's like Twitter knows to serve me the angriest tweets first. It's like the first tweet I see is always the one that sets me off. Every single time.
So what I try to do to counter that is I follow a number of like accounts at random accounts, like Bodega Cats, for example.
Yeah, sure.
And I'll like every time I see one of the tweets, I like it. So I'll force that algorithm to feed me some of the better stuff first.
That's
so
smart.
Follow those accounts and like the shit out of them. That's my best advice. Because I'll be like, oh, cool, Bodega Cats. Ooh, tiny houses. Oh, okay, bad policy. But I've started out good, so I'm not immediately angry.
Right.
Yeah, not immediately.
No, I do that with YouTube, right? So my YouTube account is really only like woodworking and furniture flipping and home renovations, graphic design stuff, things that make me very happy, right? YouTube is like the social media channel I go to when I am just raged out with Twitter, right? Cannot handle it, cannot do anymore. Let's watch someone grout tile, because that will be much better, right?
Yeah.
Or Logan knows if I'm having a bad day, he will send me photos, before and after photos of the landscaping work that he does. I find it so soothing. It is my favorite thing, you guys, because he will send a picture of this like jaggedy looking yard, right?
Just
that
a
is
habitat,
like things are just, and then the picture that comes back to me is like perfectly edged with precision edged
Oh God, that
shrubs
is satisfying.
and like the lawn mowed, perfect pavers aligned in a perfect grid. Like,
I have some from today then to send you.
The little things that just make you happy. You need to, watch
look,
the silly cat
agree.
videos.
Do you ever feel? I constantly have this guilty feeling that when I'm not on Twitter or reading something or being active or doing this thing, if I'm just goofing off or wasting time, or I legitimately, genuinely feel guilty. Like, oh no,
you're
okay,
investing that time in yourself, right? Like, it goes back to the old saying, like, you can't take care of others if you can't take care of yourself, and that's the biggest thing. Like, cool, we could have you be a powerhouse for 2 days straight until you go mad, but for the next week, you're burnt out and now you're not doing anything. But if you learn to take those little breaks and invest in yourself and give back to yourself like that, you're going to be more effective for much longer.
Yeah.
Right?
So in the grand scheme of things, you investing in you is investing in all of the things
I guess
that you do.
is true.
So,
I
so
often
continue to take little Star Wars breaks, Nick. We need you to do that.
take Star Wars breaks.
And I have the same issue, especially as the president of CASA, right? I
Big
feel
deal.
all this pressure, right? But so here's how I balance it. I set up time schedules, right? So, from the minute I wake up and brush my teeth to like 6 p.m., right? That is a time when I should, if I'm not doing advocacy related things or work related things or being highly productive and involved, I will feel guilty about that if I'm not doing it between those hours. But after those hours, I give myself permission for work-life balance that if I'm not doing anything, if I'm watching Netflix, if I'm whatever, I am allowed, because that is my time slot for that. And so when I set those rules up, now sometimes I break them, right? Sometimes something crazy will happen in the evening on Twitter and I'm yelling at people into the night, and sometimes during the day I had a slow day, so I watch some Netflix, right? But having those parameters sets up allows me to not feel guilty and to make sure that I've scheduled me time, right? So maybe that is a solution that would be helpful.
Another thing that I like to keep in mind is that just because you're not there on the internet yelling and screaming into the void does not mean that there is not an entire community of people out there doing it right now.
It's not just
That's
on
a really
you.
good point.
You're not alone in there, and it's not like if just you takes this day off that everything's going to fall apart and the last decade of work we've all put into it will all be for nothing. And that's not going to happen. There are people out there who are very good at this, who are just as passionate as you, who will be there while you take your break, and that's okay.
Yeah, 100%. Look, it's a team effort. And there was Michael, I saw him earlier in the chat. I don't know if he's in the chat now, but there's a few people in the chat, like Michael, Mallory Gates, Addie Tooney, that you just see on Twitter all the time. And I'm like, thank God for that. Like, thank you for them.
Just thank God for this community, like in general. There's just so many people out there all putting in that time. And, it's okay to take those breaks. Like, it's all going to be here when you get back.
Yeah, it is.
I promise.
It definitely is.
You're not going to miss the end of the debate because you take a day off. It'll still be here.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just suddenly going to get solved. I'm going to go on vacation next week. I get back. It's like, oh, you're never going to guess what happened. Yeah,
you missed
this investigation into the FDA revealed all this stuff.
Look,
so they.
If I came back and everything was fixed, I wouldn't be bummed. Okay.
No, I'd be celebrating.
Not at all.
That's it.
And don't worry, if that happens, I'll text you guys so you'll know
Yeah,
what's going on.
just-
Okay, I make you that promise.
Please,
We have
please.
a pact
Thank you.
between us. If someone goes on vacation, you text that
And
person, you let them know
some sort of
something
huge
happened.
news happens.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
you got to keep
I'll
us
be,
in the loop.
mid trimming some burning bushes or something, and my phone will go off, and Danielle will be like, "We won."
Yeah,
We won!
We won.
Biden vapes, you guys. It's over.
That's the headline I'm waiting for. That's the
Yeah.
Vaping 360 Jim McDonald headline I'm waiting for.
Right.
We won. I think we'll get there in our lifetime.
Constitutional amendment to protect vaping has just been passed. No,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
never
some
gonna
sort of
happen.
like
That's never gonna.
Congress opens the free market.
yeah.
Sweet.
Oh, right on. We had one last super chat from the great Fishy. He just says, hey, everyone. Hey, love you. Hey, Fishy. Love you, bro. Appreciate you, pimp. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing well. All right. Well, listen, you guys, this is a really good discussion today. I learned a lot of things. I love having you on, Logan Exhales. I appreciate you making the time. I know you just got off work, and I know that working and then working is not ideal, but we very appreciate it.
This wasn't work. This was a great time. This is a great discussion. So,
well, thank you very much. I appreciate you. Pimp your stuff, Logan Exhales. Where can people find you? Twitter, Patreon, the Res and Vape podcast.
Yeah,
you still do that?
Twitch?
No, I don't.
Twitch?
I haven't done the Rise and Vape podcast in a long time. First and foremost, though, you can head over to CASA.org and become a member because it's absolutely free. You should do that before you do anything else.
Don't have any CASA propaganda.
Yep, like
really.
Ern says, donate if you can. Every penny counts. It all, it all counts.
Yep.
We promise we'll put it to good use. But as far as I go, you can follow me across social media at Logan Exhales. Usually there's an underscore in there. Otherwise, Patreon, all those things. I do a Sunday night stream called the Come Down. It's on Twitch. You can find that in the link on any of my social medias as well. That's also just Logan Exhales, and it's a fun time. We play games, we drink beers, we vape things. But yeah, that's it. CASA is the most important, though. Go there first.
Yeah, go to CASA
As
first.
Michael Redfern in chat says, buy a CASA t-shirt. They're so cool.
I have an old one. I have an old New York one.
That's an old one. Yeah, that's
an old New York one.
I vape, I vote. Yeah, I only have the new T-shirts. I mean, they're great. Weapons of Mass Disruption is my favorite one.
Yeah.
That was Danielle's design.
I mean, I thought I was pretty clever, not gonna lie.
See, now you guys are
really
actually
good.
getting my campfire lighting. This is like nighttime lighting for me, and I just forever feel like I'm telling ghost stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a real bad streamer,
The
you guys.
call
I'm really
was
bad at
coming
lighting
from
and all the good
inside the house. Logan. Well, listen, there's a lot of tutorials on YouTube about good stream lighting. Good
I've been
YouTube
watching
lighting.
them.
Yeah. Look, this doesn't just happen by accident. There's a lot going on off the scenes here.
I think I'm just comfortable in being the guy who's bad at streaming and persistent
Sure,
at it.
sure, yeah, sure. Look, if you're gonna have
Wait, that's
gimmick,
a brand.
Yeah.
That is a brand.
Yeah, I feel like that's my brand. I just go at it as half-assed as possible and pray that it works.
Trying my best.
Thoughts and
That's just your
prayers.
tagline. Trying my best.
Yeah.
Thoughts and prayers.
Yeah,
That's
thoughts
all
and
it is.
prayers.
I
Trying my
made
best.
it.
Thoughts and prayers. All right, you guys. I think we're going to get out of here. Very much appreciate everybody coming out to TBN. We are going to go on a little bit of a break, but I'll explain everything in the vlog. Danielle Jones is actually moving, like we said at the beginning of the show, cross freaking country to her new home in Indiana. Wish her all the best traveling experience possible.
Yeah, and if you recommend
dangle
vape
clacks.
shops in the Indianapolis area, let me know because
Yeah.
I would love to. Because they still exist in Indiana.
I know, just not in
apparently.
California. Yeah, they
right,
do.
not in California, but they do in Indiana.
Yeah, find your local vape shop.
John
Find your
Haymaker,
local
I should be doing a true crime podcast right now. I do look like I should be doing a true crime podcast.
You into true crime at all? You're not into true crime? No, I'm not either. My wife is.
I like it. I
I'm
watch
not.
the Netflix shows.
I get down on some. I get down on some religious true crime. I don't know why that. I find that more fascinating. Like when the church does things really wrong, or cults and churches. Like there was a big doc about the Mormons and some document shenanigans, and I find
Yeah.
I find that really very fascinating. I don't know.
Yeah.
Nick,
no,
you and I
feel
have
like-
joked about doing a religious podcast as atheists.
Yeah, I still would really love to. I love talking about it.
Ooh,
anytime I
back to
can.
your roots, Nick.
Yeah, back to my roots, baby.
Yeah.
Back to my roots. Look,
Yeah,
my
it's
password.
podcast.
Did I tell you about my password to my computer? Here, I'll end with this story. It's not a
Don't
very good story.
Tell us.
I
your
won't tell
password.
you the password. I won't tell you the password. But for my Mac, for the longest time, like since I got it, my password to log into my Mac is always just pickle. Right? Like I'm never going to forget it. All lowercase pickle. I can get in real quick. And then one night, I was sitting here working late at night with some shed time, with some shed time. And I thought, I'm sitting here thinking, if I die, it's going to be really easy for anybody to get into my computer. It's going to be the first password you guess to log in. Pickle. Of course it is. So everybody can get into my computer. And then I thought, I want to be more mysterious. So I gave myself a long, complicated Bible verse password.
Sure.
Yeah. It's one of my favorite Bible verses, and it's real long and a lot of numbers, and I don't think anybody would ever guess it. And so now I feel more secure. I feel more excited. I mean, not excited about dying, but if I were to die, then it'd be a little mysterious, like, what's Nick's password? No one's going to guess a Bible verse. Except
clever.
now
Now that
everyone's
you have
going to guess
told
a
the
Bible verse.
entire internet.
Yeah,
that
but
people
have a lot of-
trying
going through the
every
Bible
yeah.
single
Yeah.
finding
one
the longest.
is not going to work.
Genesis 1:1. Nope. Genesis 1:2.
1:2.
Nope. Genesis
That would take a
1:3.
while.
Yeah. It would take eons. Yeah. Let's start it up, Danielle. Let's just start our religious podcast.
Yeah, we should do it with my little brother, who is becoming a minister. By
We
the way.
should. We should do it. I need to meet your brother first.
He's pretty cool.
I would
actually.
love to do a podcast with someone who's becoming a minister or a pastor.
Right.
That would be so fascinating.
When I was young, I was told there are two things you never talk about, and that's politics and religion. My two favorite things to talk about are politics and religion.
Yeah, same.
Also,
Same.
sex, right? That's
Yeah,
another one that you're never supposed to.
Yeah.
Sure.
Let's
Yeah,
talk
you
about that.
don't talk
for
about
sure.
sex. And I love talking about sex.
Yeah.
Sure.
Everybody
Why not?
does.
I love like my favorite things to talk about are all the things you shouldn't talk about. We should definitely talk about drugs. We should definitely talk about sex. We should absolutely talk about politics and definitely talk about religion.
Yeah, 100%.
Hell yeah.
All at the Thanksgiving dinner table. Let's cover all the bases in 1 hour
Yep.
with the whole
That's
family.
what you call the podcast, the Thanksgiving dinner table.
Yeah,
Where
absolutely.
everything you're not supposed to discuss gets discussed.
Yeah.
I
We'll just call it
love
taboo
this.
at the table. There you go.
Taboo at the table.
There you go.
Damn, this
It's
is a good
So
idea.
catchy.
This
That's
is
a $1 million
So
name
catchy.
right there.
It really is $1
Yeah.
million idea.
Yeah.
Shoot. All right. Well, while we get working on Taboo at the Table podcast, I'm going to
Yep.
say goodbye to everybody in the chat. I love you guys. Thank you so much for coming out. Thank you for being, down for the cause. And to those of you on Twitter, whom I see literally every day fighting disinformation and misinformation, thank you. Like from the bottom of my heart, I really very much appreciate it. The way that we're going to win is together. And I do think we're going to win. So thank you so much, you guys. And appreciate you. Thank you again, Danielle. Thank you again, Logan Exhales. We're just going to wave and say goodbye like we're on a Disney parade. Bye.